I'm with the do.
New girl alert.
This just in?
This just in, guys. We are covering Molly. If you cannot tell by my braids and my glasses, I'm standing in solidarity with a girl who doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And that's the tone we're going to start Molly off with.
I think that's good. That's what an American girl would do, though.
Yeah, so far we've read Meet Molly and Molly Learns a Lesson. And upon this we're recording like both of them. So like if we talk about both a little bit, that's just how it happens. We've done it before, you guys have noticed. But you know what? I was here kind of assuming that I hadn't liked Molly as a child because I thought she was ugly.
Yeah.
And I was thinking when I was reading all these people talking about why they didn't like Molly, it was because they thought she was ugly. But it turns out Molly is a brat and kind of a bitch. And that might be the real reason why people don't like Molly.
Yeah, she sucks.
She is like not the nicest girl.
She's the type of girl, though, I fear you couldn't say was being... You couldn't call her a bully.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't do enough outright.
Yeah.
But in her head, she's a bully.
Yeah. She's just like petty. She's kind of a petty individual.
And unwarranted, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything deserves retaliation. Her brothers, her family, her...
A nice girl who's just trying to be friends with her. A nice young blonde girl.
Howie for wanting to do multiplication tables. Can I talk? Oh my god.
Everyone in Molly's life is doing just their own lives, and Molly sees it as a personal inconvenience, and that is kind of what is a little tough about Molly.
Well, that's what's rudest about other people.
Yeah, so we're gonna enjoy it, as we always do. But if there's any idea that on this podcast we're ridiculing children, we will ridicule this child.
This one. She deserves it, though.
Of all the children, she deserves it the most, so far.
It's kind of like dogs. I don't think there are inherently bad dogs, just like I don't think there are inherently bad children. But sometimes I think that people enable children and dogs to misbehave, so much so that it becomes an egregious affront where you're like, somebody had to correct this behavior at some point. How did she get this way when all of her siblings... I mean, we haven't gotten that deep into it. I'm sure we'll learn more about her family in the Christmas book.
Yes.
But her family just seems mostly normal and well-adjusted enough for a family in wartime.
Yeah.
And Molly just seems like she's in La La Land.
Well, it's just a weird energy coming from her, kind of. Like, for being one of 4 kids, she acts like she's like the center of it. Like, she acts like she's an only child. Kind of.
Well, I was going to say something I thought when I was reading the second book is that she reminds me of what I think people think like she's a stereotypical only child, like written.
Yeah.
As like spoiled, very like self-centered, everything my way all the time. Like I'll throw a fit if like it's not going my way. But yeah, then I remember she has siblings and I'm like, God, not one of them is keeping her in line.
And you know, like, I think it's funny because I think so. Like, a peek behind the curtain. We were originally going to record Molly at the end of our last Samantha episode, but we ran out of time. And it's kind of interesting going back to our notes because I feel like the second book kind of changed our opinions a little bit.
Yeah, I was kind of rooting for her.
Yeah,
Not like really. I wasn't a fan.
yeah,
But I was maybe on the path. And now I'm like, oh my God, we have like 3 more books of her.
4 more books of her.
Oh, it's even worse. Yeah,
I
you're
know,
right.
and there's some her birthday is really bratty if I remember it.
Oh my God.
If I'm remembering correctly, someone comes in, as a non-spoiler spoiler, someone comes into town and all of a sudden it becomes about this other person and Molly's angry.
Okay, so I'm so sorry. Did the person who wrote the Molly books just kind of take the Samantha blueprint and like graft it over a little? What do you mean somebody comes from out of town and then it becomes about them and she gets upset?
It's like, yeah, instead of her Christmas, yeah.
Hello? You can't fool me.
I want to spoil it for you, but I won't.
That's okay, don't.
Okay.
I don't know anything about her. Anyway, she's She's more annoying than I thought she was gonna be.
She's tough.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We're doing it for you guys.
So perhaps we should go into it with the initial feelings we had.
Yeah.
And then we can maybe add the color of, but now I feel this way.
I'm hoping that much like Kirsten had no journey, and much like Samantha's journey was to cobble together a family, as we found out in a deft sweep in the last page of the book. Like, didn't you guys realize I was doing this whole time?
Surprise, you guys. The moral of my book series.
Kind of a masterstroke, honestly. You're like, she did do that.
I respect it.
I'm hoping that Molly's story arc is that she becomes less bratty, that she kind of gets humbled by lessons.
God, here's hoping.
One note I wanted to say just before we start with Molly that I've noticed with the Molly book so far is like allegories for war, kind of. Did you notice that?
Elaborate.
So there's what's going on the home front matches what's happening in the war. So it's like they're talking about in the first book, it's like she's in a fight with her brother and her mom's like, we have to stick together. This is how wars get started, when people disagree and won't stand down. And the second one, it's about they have a whole message at the end that's like, wow, you can accomplish more when you're allies with people.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
So it feels
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, so it feels like they're kind of doing a, you know what's happening in World War II, kids? It's happening on the home front too for little girls like you.
Yeah. Okay, I agree.
Yeah. So I just didn't feel like the other books did, again, we talked about this when we've been talking about it. This is the most recent time period so far. I think Julie and a few of the Challenger explosion all come a little closer to modern day.
Yeah.
But I kind of think that this so far is I wonder if they're doing that because they feel more confident in telling a story with an allegory, when they know confidently how to exactly relate it back to the actual events of the war, you know? And also, I guess the other ones were time periods, not specific event. This is the first one that we kind of discussed with the 40, the number 4-year structure that
where
actually
something's
falls
actually
into
happening.
A year.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that has something to do with it. We'll see with the other books, but it was just something I kind of peaked in both these books. So I heard just a few other notes before we get started. One, I would love to know, and if anyone knows, do the Molly mold and the Samantha mold have the same face? Because they don't look that much different. I feel like the hair color's a little different, but I feel like I've seen in a lot of the American Girl Reddits, people don't know if they have a Molly or Samantha if the braids are out. The hair color, Molly's is more mousy brown, and Samantha's is more of a deep, luxurious brown. But
this says Molly and Samantha American Girl dolls do. They were all three of the original ones have the same face mold. They were first released using the classic mold, which was introduced in 1986.
Okay.
So, yes, you're indeed correct.
So it's kind of hard to tell if you have a Molly or a Samantha.
Do you think you could make your Samantha doll ugly if you gave her
glasses? Yes.
Yeah.
I do. I do think that would be possible.
Yes, this is Addie was the first doll to have a different face mold.
Which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, that seems correct. It seems good that they did that.
Okay, so overall, I did feel like this, having read Kirsten and Samantha, was a little bit of a departure from what we had. It felt more jarring in the sense that this book takes place at Halloween, and it just felt like there's a lot of things that all of a sudden were more modern in a way that since we've been in the Edwardian era and pioneer times, felt a little bit oh whoa, this is a kid's book, you know?
Yeah, it does feel more silly, even though it's wartime, but it feels more just girls goofing around, silly school story.
Well, it feels more the stakes don't feel as high, you know? I felt
No.
I obviously they're all children's books, but I felt like there were real problems presented in the other books, like cholera and child labor. And now the problem is a girl who's perfectly nice to us wants to go to Halloween with us and we don't want her to. It just does feel a little bit, which is a good sign for children, that their problems are getting more trivial as time goes on.
Yeah.
But it just like I guess it was just kind of interesting departure from kind of the history that you get from the other books.
Oh, I was gonna say I agree because I guess that the thing that's missing from this book to me, you get a lot of mini history lessons where they like give you like context on different things that are happening like in wartime efforts, like and like you said, like on the home front. But so far in this book and in the next book, Molly has not had to grapple at all with the implications of war.
Or make a single sacrifice, really.
No.
That isn't forced on her.
Yeah, and most of the sacrifices she has to make are just rationing.
And
or
what everyone
not
else
getting,
is
like,
doing in the
new
country.
things.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. It just felt like it was just kind of interesting because we read, like I said, we read Samantha and Molly right back to back, basically. And it just felt so, like, different. And we were complaining a little bit, but they're fun to read. I'm having fun reading them. They're easy reads. They're almost easier reads, I think.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm not weighed down with
child labor and
emotion.
Immigrant stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. But yeah, so Molly is just a regular kind of girl. She lives in Jefferson, Illinois, I believe is the town. Or it's Jackson or Jefferson. I can't remember. But she is one of 4. She's a middle child. Kind of has middle child energy, but not totally. She's a little too... as a middle child, you want attention, but you don't ever expect to be the center of attention. You're just kind of hoping it's coming to you. And when it doesn't, you're like, well, of course it's not going to come to me. It never has.
You're not surprised that it
But you're
didn't.
doing things for attention. Like, you're being silly and goofy and, like, a little weird.
Yeah.
But no one notices. That's the whole point of
It was like you're a ghost.
So she kind of has a middle child energy in the sense that she, like, wants attention. But the fact that she expects it to actually happen kind of demotes her from a middle child energy in my point of view.
Okay.
She's also the youngest girl. So they
That's
have
true.
a nice structure, the McIntires.
They
McIntire? Wow, I've never actually said that out loud.
I read it as McIntyre in my head.
Molly McIntire. I think it's McIntyre, but it's MC, which makes it...
Yeah.
Because I'm McCabe. And not MacCabe. And I'm MC. So it's McIntire? McIntire. McIntyre?
I think we can say it however we want.
You guys sound off in the comments. Is it McIntyre or McIntyre?
Yeah, and just write it out the same way each time,
Yeah.
and don't give me the phonetic pronunciation because I'll just read it however I want.
Yeah, just let us keep
Just
our
let me know
imaginations
however.
going. But Molly is one of 4. She has an older sister, Jill, a older brother, Ricky, and then a younger brother, Brad. We haven't met Brad yet in any real way. It says he's a brat, though, but we have yet to see evidence.
Well-
We've only seen one brat in the McIntyre family.
Yeah, and she's the main fucking character.
And Dad is off at war, fighting on the home front, but he's a doctor. So he's a little bit safer than just like a soldier, which is a good move on their part.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
So Dad's off in England helping the war effort. And in the meantime, they've got like a housemaid, which, as we discussed in our bonus episode that we have coming out, we would love a housemaid. So if you guys want to help us fund a housemaid, just 3 hours a day for Celia and Caroline, a woman to bake us cookies.
She will have to commute between our homes.
We could switch off and I could just come to your house for like 3 hours every day. Or an hour and like eat a cookie and then
Okay, that's interesting. Shared custody.
or weeks.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Every other.
Yeah, I think that might work.
I like that.
It could be good. But so Mellie's just a typical girl growing up in World War II. And I say we just like get into it now. But
Let's do it.
yeah. So we have chapter 1, Turnips. So move aside, Samantha, I say. There's a new brat in town, literally. The book opens with Molly sitting at her table, stuck, throwing a fit because she didn't want to eat turnips. So we start off on a really good note. She thinks turnips look gross, and the book kind of explains to us how they're one of the only vegetables that have survived the Victory Garden for the year. So they are basically only eating vegetables that they can grow because the canned vegetables are going to the soldiers.
They're serving our country.
Yeah, the servers, you
Yeah.
know, as we call soldiers. But one, I had 2 notes about this. One, I think it's funny that it is so 1940s to be like, oh, well, the canned vegetables are the ones that we would like to eat. Because I hate canned vegetables so much.
I like canned corn, like
Yeah.
canned sweet corn
Mm-hmm.
and beans and that's it.
Beans. Canned. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I've
like-
never not had a canned bean, I don't think.
I don't think I've ever had a raw bean.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do with a bean.
Me either.
If it wasn't in a
That's
can.
not my business.
Yeah, it's not my beans.
my beansness for sure.
But so, and then we also, too, the other thing I wanted to say is the one thing that's a little bit different with the Molly books I've noticed so far, as opposed to Samantha or Kirsten books, is we get a lot more just explanations of things.
Yeah.
Like, we get the whole, like, probably like 2 or 3 pages interspersed throughout the first chapter are dedicated to teaching us about a victory garden and how a victory garden works and what a victory garden was. And I kind of put it at the top just because it's the inciting incident. But like throughout the whole chapter, they go back to like what the victory garden was and like the propaganda that came with the victory garden and why they started doing this. And Mrs. Guilford was like really into it. And basically they have like turnips and beans or something, like green beans or something like that. And so she makes them for dinner. Molly is like, I don't want to eat that. That seems so gross. And Jill, her older sister, takes nice ladylike bites of it. And Molly is like, ugh, this is so annoying because if this was a year ago, Jill would have like crashed out and helped me throw a fit about these turnips. But Jill is too adult now to throw a fit. And I'm kind of thinking maybe Jill just knows that there's bigger problems than to complain about some mashed turnips.
Jill's learned the good life lesson of picking your battles, it seems, which is I'm not going to fight about the turnips, but maybe someday I'll complain about shoes or something else.
Also, turnips they're neither good nor bad. They're not a very popular vegetable
I was gonna say,
here.
I don't know the last time I ate one.
I've had them. They're popular in Scotland,
Okay.
called neeps.
Neeps.
Neeps and tatties.
Oh, that's cute.
And they kind of taste like sweet potatoes. So they're kind of having like it's a similar idea, root vegetable type thing as a sweet potato.
Well, I'm a radish enjoyer.
Yeah, it's better than a radish. I'd say it's more palatable to it would be more palatable to a 9-year-old than a radish.
Interesting.
So she's sitting there and she's not eating it. And she's with her older sister because she doesn't want to like be her friend anymore. And everyone else has already eaten, and Molly's just kind of ruminating, thinking about like when her mom's gonna get home and how she's gonna be in trouble. But she's also thinking about what she wants to do for Halloween. And so she's fantasizing about her beautiful Cinderella costume. And it's going to be pink, and it's going to be lovely, and it's going to be overly complicated, it sounds like. And she's going to get her mom to help her do it. Which I, off the bat, was like, no mom has time to make this costume.
No.
And then she's also trying to think while she's sitting at the table how she can convince her 2 best friends who she's doing a group costume with how to be like the ugly stepsisters. And I'm like, this is insane behavior. I had 2 best friends when I was like a kid in a little like trio kind of like who I would do stuff like this with. And I don't think I would ever or any of them would ever have suggested we do a costume where 2 of us are like ugly. We're either all ugly or like none of us are ugly.
I was gonna say, I guess I think I definitely had friends like that as a kid, though, where it'd be like, oh, I want to be the fun thing, and then what can you be? Like, not in a necessarily like malicious way, but I think sometimes it is little kid brained to decide, well, I want to be Cinderella, and I want my friends to dress up in theme with me. And instead of being like, they could also be princesses of a
Yes.
different variety.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. They'll be the ugly stepsisters.
And like, no offense, but out of her friends, Linda's the prettiest.
I had to look at her picture.
She's the raven-haired girl.
Yeah, that tracks.
And she should be Snow White. And they can be 2 of the 7 dwarves. How about that, Molly?
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
I will say that was my fun fact. I was nosy because it's Cinderella's 75th anniversary this year.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Cinderella.
birthday, Cinderella. But it didn't come out till 1950 because when she was describing the dress, at first I was like, oh, my initial thought was American Girl couldn't reference that movie because they don't have the rights. But now American Girl doll has done a branded Disney collab, and you can buy a Disney Cinderella American Girl doll.
It's kind of meta, isn't
Which
it?
I thought was kind of funny. But the only princess that's been out so far is Snow White at this point.
Snow White came out in like 1930, didn't it? That's
Something
kind of
like that.
crazy
Mhm.
when you
I
think
think
about it.
1938, yeah.
Disney, man.
Disney, man. So anyway,
Weird to have an American Girl doll who knows about Disney.
I was trying to figure out if I thought she was like a Disney head or not. That's why I was interested, but
Well, there's something we'll get to it with the next book, but there is they reference like people from the movies, and I'll get to it in the next one. But I just as a brief thought, it's an interesting time where I feel like people were just going to see movies no matter what. Like it was like TV.
It was
You
just what was
went to go see
playing.
a movie.
Yeah.
You know, it was like there was no specific movie. You're just like, oh, let's go see the movies, which I kind of like.
Well, there used to be more like community theater type things too, right? Like literally community theaters
Yeah.
where like I could just go during the day, and they would show like newsreels too.
Yes,
It
yeah.
would be like a newsreel and then like a show
And the
and then
Nickelodeons.
other things. I think we should bring those back.
I would love a Nickelodeon.
That's so fun. The novelty.
Yeah,
That
we can
should
do
be
it in
our art
Austin.
show.
Yeah, we'll come with a Nickelodeon here. But Molly won't eat, and like I said, she's like kind of stewing in everything but turnips. And she kind of starts to think about how this would have never happened if her dad was still home. And she kind of goes into a little sad girl, which yeah, I agree. It's sad
I
when
get
your
it.
dad's fighting in the war. I'm not going to say she's being woe is me about this part, but she kind of talks about how he's been away for I think almost a year now, she says. And they get letters from him sometimes, but because he's away, Mom has to work at the Red Cross till late at night. So her mom's not home for dinner. Their housemaid, Miss Guilford, makes them dinner. And she misses when they would all eat in the dining room together and have these big meals. And then Dad would make her feel special because he would ask her questions about her day and be really excited about it. So I guess, like, when I say that, I kind of understand that, like, maybe Molly's dad was someone who made her feel special and gave her, like, specific attention in a family of 4.
That's gone now.
And now that she doesn't have that, she's kind of feeling a lack of acknowledgement and attention. And that could be some of it. She should get over it, for sure. But I can sympathize with kind of, as a 9-year-old, a dynamic shifting that you didn't expect to shift, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And her dad says, like, good golly ollie, Miss Molly. And she misses him, and she sometimes sits in his chair and sniffs it to smell like Dad. And yeah, I mean, I get it. Like,
It's cute.
her mom's not there either. It's not even just like that her dad's gone. It's her mom's now working because Rosie the Riveter said we can do it.
That's right.
So her mom's doing it.
Oh, well, and also, I guess I don't know how much or when the turn from housekeeper to nanny happens or doesn't in an everyday average, like, American household. But it also doesn't seem like Mrs. Guilford is very, like, nanny-esque. She
No,
does
she's being
truly
burdened
seem-
upon, I think.
I was going to say, I think she probably accepted a role thinking, I will cook, clean, and provide for this household. And then there were 4 children.
Yeah.
And then Mama McIntire was like, well, I have a job, so I have to go. And also my husband's at war.
So now it's a little bit more corralling kids, too.
So my kids are going to be around. Bye.
But we don't even know where Miss Guilford is because Molly's just sitting there alone, and she hears the car come home, and she's about to finish the bite of turnips. Then Ricky comes in and is like, ew, brains, tee-hee-hee. And Molly is like, Ricky, you rascal. And she decides now she's not going to finish them because they're too gross. Because she was just going to swallow the bite, but her brother made her think of like worms and brains and that. So we do get another rascal, like Eddie figure who's just like around to kind of mess with her, especially in this book.
I'm starting my dossier. Okay.
Oh yes,
I wasn't thinking about the Venn diagram of overlap before,
and now
but you best believe now.
Oh, now we're gonna do it
On our Molly and Samantha comparison.
Yes,
I'm gonna have a document.
a Venn diagram
Prepared.
of rascal boys and girls books.
Yeah.
But so she knows that now that she's been kind of a brat, she's like, my mom will definitely not make me the costume. Oh, woe is me. But Miss McIntire comes home and sees that Molly is sitting at the table, and she goes, oh, you silly girl. And so she takes, at first she says actually that she's like, let's heat these up. And I thought, are microwaves invented yet? No, they are not. So she put it in a saute pan and she just heats it up. But she adds some butter and a little bit of sugar and a dash of cinnamon to it and makes it kind of a new turnip dish. And Molly takes a bite and it tastes like applesauce, she says. And so she kind of enjoys it. So while Molly's chowing down, Mom sits with her and tells her a story about how when she was younger, she was eating sardines on toast.
Yeah.
And she didn't like it, which I agree with her on that. And so she stuffed the sardines and toast into her pocket. And later when she was playing like mahjong with her dad, the cat found it. And so she's like, so we've all stuffed food into our pocket that we don't want to eat. But sometimes we have to eat it as our war duty. And I was like,
And then she
okay,
looks
Mom.
directly at us.
And then she points Uncle Sam style at us.
and goes, you could do it too.
And so one thing about Mom is a very nice person, but Mom is just constantly making like comparisons to like, she's like, this is our, like, much like men are fighting and dying, your duty is to eat your turnips.
Mom is the America self-insert character in this book.
She's Queen Columbia.
She's here to tell us about how we can contribute, how we can be better citizens, and her children especially.
But the one thing I kind of noted was when Mom was telling her story about how she did that when she was a little kid. If this is 1940, then Mom is only, I'm going to guess Mom is in her 40s, like late 40s. She has a 14-year-old. I looked up actually the average age that Americans were having kids in the 40s. It's actually higher than it was now. And that's probably because of all the deaths. But, I should have looked up, I guess, the like 20s. Because that's, never mind. It's okay. But let's say Mom is like 45, right?
Yeah.
And so she was born then in 1899, let's say, right? So she's only like 5 to 10 years younger than Samantha, which I thought was interesting. And then I thought, wouldn't it be cool if one of our American Girl dolls, Mom, was an American Girl doll? Like if we
time.
Like if we had followed Samantha's kid or something, you know? I think it would be cool to kind of read.
It does feel like that'd be an interesting way to do legacy characters.
Yeah.
To say like, oh, okay, we started with, or like an ancestry line, like we started with Kirsten, and then like 5 decades later, it's Kirsten's great-grandchild or whatever.
Well, it's like, and this is a very different book series, but Philippa Gregory does historical fiction. She wrote The Other Boleyn Girl and books like that. And she did a series about the Cousins War, which was the Lancasters versus the Yorks in, I think, the 1400s. And there's a family also involved in it called the Plantagenets. I think that's how you say it. It's like a French-English bastardized name. But she starts with the matriarch of the family, who is Joan, Joan something. And then the next book is Joan's daughter. But then Joan's a character still. She's not like a frequent character, but she's her mom, and so she appears sometimes. And it's kind of cool if you read the whole series to kind of know the whole background of the character that is now just kind of like a supporting character. You know, you get to see a little bit of like, oh, her mom wants her to do this, and her mom's talking about her love story. You're like, and I was there.
And I saw it happen.
So there is something that I just kind of wonder why they never, I wonder if I'm sure they thought about it, so I wonder why they didn't explore it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it is, and it doesn't have to be every doll. It doesn't have to be like, oh, well, we just didn't want to follow one family. But I think it would be cool, like, to have, like, Samantha be a mom in, like, the 30s or something, you know, and have her daughter be the character.
Oh,
so.
yeah. I just think showing, like, we've said it before, but with Samantha, with Molly, with some of these, like, I guess, like, 1900s girls, they saw so much change in such a short amount of time in their lives that it would be interesting to see them go from normal girl lives this life to grown woman with a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking that, but the chapter ends with her kind of eating her food and kind of resolving that she'll be a little bit better about these things, which she isn't. In chapter 2, Hula Dancers.
Hula Dancers.
The names, not to keep critiquing, but the names are less fun in these books too, of the chapters.
They're very literal.
Yeah.
They are telling you what the core bit is about.
I know. I like Lost.
What I will say, though, to give it credit, maybe I just feel burned by some of the Samantha books having insanely long chapters that, like, had points, but not really. Yeah. All of Molly's chapters have, like, one core thing per chapter, and then that chapter ends.
It's done.
And it's over.
That's true. They come up with the idea and then they're like done.
They're like, okay, and this is what we're talking about this chapter. Okay, next chapter, new topic. Maybe a little overlap, but new topic.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, next one.
I'll allow that leniency for Molly.
Yeah, not a bad thing.
But so Molly has her friends come over after school to game plan their Halloween costumes. And Celia is a resident Halloween head. So I did want to ask her, did you relate to the amount of dedication the girls are spending? I mean, they're doing it like a week before, so you don't totally relate to that because you plan costumes months before.
Yes.
But did you relate to them being like, we got to figure this out. We got to be the best?
Okay, I actually thought it was very cute. I did relate. I thought it was very charming. It's when she started to charm me in this book. I will say I feel a little envious of her child friends who are into Halloween because I feel like now as an adult I have more friends that, which feels like a little funny to say. I feel like as an adult I know more people that will like dress up and do stuff for Halloween, or like host like crafting nights or like do stuff like that. Whereas when I was a kid, I was very into Halloween, and my grandmother and grandfather on my dad's side would make all my costumes. Because my grandmother was like a fashion designer and like would sew all these like crazy things, and then my grandfather would make like all the props and stuff. So
Cool.
yeah, so I think when I was Molly's age, I was a masquerade girl.
Okay.
But I had this like big like Marie Antoinette, because that was like another hyper fixation historically that I had was Marie Antoinette. So I think I had like a big Marie Antoinette type thing and like a ruff collar and all this stuff. And so yeah,
I
that was very cute.
I was Luna Lovegood,
That's good.
and I made Quibbler magazines,
Cute.
and
I do like that.
printed out 20 copies of them and gave them out to everyone in my class.
Yeah, but you know what? That's fun. Like,
And I wrote articles.
I'm sorry. I feel like, look, I think did people make fun of you? Or did they like it?
I think they were neutral about it.
Okay, see, I wasn't
made fun of it. I wasn't celebrated.
Okay, I understand. You were Molly McIntire.
Yeah, I was mollied.
I think it's cute, and I think little kids get away with it more.
Yeah.
Or like younger kids get away with it more because Halloween is for children. I have to be like, yeah, no, I love Halloween, like in like a not that normal kind of a way. Like I already know what I want to be this year.
Yeah.
So you start cooking.
You already know this year?
Yeah, I have 2 things I want to be already.
All right. There she goes, guys.
So, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. But so she has Linda and Susan, her best friends, over. Linda is a practical schemer, and Susan is like a dreamer, which is just the words they use to describe them in the family and friends page.
I didn't catch it until book 2 because I think I kind of just like glossed over the characters and read the book on this one. But I did like that their titles rhymed. Schemer and dreamer.
And I kind of do like Molly has the most solid friends, I feel like, out of any of the girls we've read so far.
Okay, yes, but that said, my note for the second book is that I'm not convinced any of these girls like each other very much.
No, they definitely don't, but that's so girlfriend coded,
Yeah.
Like
we were like, uh-oh. I fear there's something wrong here.
Yeah, so they are walking home and they're like, yeah, we're going to Molly's to plan, and they run into Allison Hargate, who is just a nice, sweet, little blonde girl who you would think they would make be a bitch, but she isn't, and she is just a nice little girl who's looking for friends, and Molly and her friends are so fucking mean to this child. And they're walking with Allison, and Allison says, oh, you guys planned your Halloween costumes yet? And they're like, well, we're doing that today, but it's a secret. And Allison says, oh, I bet your costumes are going to be really cool. And they're like, yeah, they will. And Allison said, they're like, what are you going to be? And then Allison says she's going to be an angel because her mom has a gown that she can borrow. And they're all like, oh, because she's going to look so good as an angel. We hate her. And so they basically like, an angel is such a basic costume. Ours is going to be so much cooler than yours. And Allison goes, yeah, I know, but my mom already made the wings, so I like have to. And I feel so bad for Allison.
It's especially because we get Molly's internal monologue, which is like, Molly was jealous. Oh my God, an angel, what a great idea. Like she's like seething with jealousy. Yes. And instead of being like, oh, that's cool, maybe I want to be an angel too, she's like, I have to figure out a way to destroy this bitch.
Yeah, and then Allison also, you can tell Allison wants to be friends with these girls, and they will not let her.
They don't even have a blonde friend, so it's not like they've hit their hair color quota.
No, they've got like 2 Mousy Brown and a raven-haired girl.
So, hello, move over. There's room for a blonde.
There's room for a little blonde. And she's like, oh, I hope to see you guys out. And then, quote from the book, it made them so uncomfortable when Allison started being so nice. Because they're mean and they feel guilty. It's not like she has no agenda. She's just a nice little girl who wants friends.
And it is crazy that the little girls recognize that they feel the way that they feel because they're jealous. Yeah. At least Molly. Molly, like, repeatedly acknowledges, like, her ugly feelings and then is like, oh, well, what's the worst reaction I could have to this?
And they're kind of mean to her because she's, like, rich-ish, you know?
Yeah. Also, like, that...
Justice for rich little blonde kids.
I think... Also, she basically says, like, she only gets to be what she is because she already has all these leftover materials. So, and this is my beef with this whole book with Molly. She seems to continuously forget that they're living in a rationing era.
Yes.
And I feel like it'll continue to be a theme. Yeah. But she's like, oh, just like a robe and wings. And it's like, yeah, babe, where do you think you're getting raw material? Yeah. To make your grand costume? Like, she is daydreaming of, like, a pretty intensive costume, even in their, like, brainstorm session. But, like, I think it's very funny. I think it's funny that she's just like, oh, boring, but also cool. And also probably realistically the only thing that my mom can make me also.
Yeah, an angel's a good, smart costume, I will say.
I would...
In wartime, you're a
One of our
little
friends
blonde
was an
girl.
angel
Yeah,
last
be
year.
an angel, you
Yeah.
know? So they all ditch her, and they go back to Molly's house, and Miss Guilford says it's super nice outside, so they should go eat apples out on the porch. And I did kind of get a miss of fall. I was like, I miss the crisp air in a cold area of the country.
I know.
Just the smell of dying leaves.
Proper leaf peeping.
Yeah, and just the, like, bite in the air, but it's sunny, but a little bit cold. I loved it. And so they're shooting around ideas, and they kind of like Molly's Cinderella idea, but then Susan says, oh, that's actually a good idea because I can borrow my sister's old prom dress. And Molly thinks, oh, wait, that means Susan would be Cinderella, and I don't want to be an ugly stepsister. So then she nixes her own idea, which is crazy. And the whole time, Ricky's, like, playing basketball, and he's like, you ugly fucks.
You're all ugly today,
Yeah.
stupid. Ha.
Which I had, like, a little... I don't know if I wrote this here, but I feel like books and TV shows do this thing. I'm a middle child. I have an older sister and a younger brother. And yes, you do get in fights with your siblings as kids. But, like, I don't recall that many times when either of my siblings came at me with the express purpose of annoying me. Sure. Like, there was never a time when my sister would come into a room and be like, nya, 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 like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you ugly piece of shit. That happened later in life. But, and even my younger brother, the way he annoyed me was he wanted to play with me. And I was like, no, that's embarrassing. You're too little. But it wasn't like, I don't know. I feel like there's this trope in TV shows and movies where your sibling is, like, trying to, like, get under your skin, like, as the purpose of an interaction. Yeah. Whereas they usually would start to do that once you did something to annoy them, once something didn't go the way that you wanted it to. Sure. Like, we would get in petty, annoying fights where you're calling each other stupid names and, like, doing stupid things. But it wasn't just, like, I'll bleep that out. would walk downstairs and start being, like, negging me, you know? So I always kind of roll my eyes when they do that in books and stuff. But Jill, her older sister, comes home with her friend Dolores. And Ricky has a crush on Dolores.
Embarrassing.
And so then they go, like, Ricky and Dolores sitting in a tree, KISSING. And he's like, you'll pay for this. And he, like, bikes off, and there's some art of him, like, pointing backwards.
You'll be sorry.
And again, he kind of was the one who was razzing them, so it's kind of a weird overreaction of his to be upset that they sang the kissy kissy song. Because I also think Dolores and Jill had gone inside at this point, right?
Yeah, I think it was just supposed to be like, I don't know, teasing him because he's being fucking annoying. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't feel like I feel like it's all an overreaction, right? They didn't need to say anything to him at all, but they did tease him, and then his reaction is basically like, "I'm gonna pray on your downfall. Yeah, you won't see me coming, but I will be coming.
It's a little diabolical
to kill you."
Yeah.
Ha.
And so then he leaves, and they're like, well, I guess we won't worry about what that means.
Yeah.
And they kind of continue to plan. My favorite part is they're going through a list of things they can be. And they say, we could be the 3 blind mice. And Mrs. McIntire steps in and is like, nope, I do not have time to make that costume. Why don't you guys just wear newspaper and be hula girls? And one of them says, oh, I have a ukulele. So that's what they do.
Yep, they were like, easy.
Which, honestly, the hula costumes seem kind of hard to make.
Okay, I also thought that because I know they're kids, but you'd still need a decent amount of paper
Yeah.
to truly make like a
And to shred it up.
sturdy enough skirt.
Yeah.
And to shred it enough, but like that it won't rip completely and then like be destroyed.
Yeah.
So I agree. To me, hula girls seemed like
I guess it's something they can do by themselves, though.
true.
It's going to take them some time, but it's their time, not her time.
That's true.
So
Give a girl an activity.
yeah, so this is a crucial plot point, kids. So they make hula skirts out of paper and leis out of paper. And then we get to chapter 3, Trick or Treat.
Twick or tweet.
So their costumes are cute. They have little green hula skirts, and they're playing the ukulele, and they're taking pictures. And Mom is getting ready to take Brad out in a ghost costume. That's all we get of Brad.
I think it's cool.
He's just wearing a blanket over.
I'm rocking with Brad.
They didn't have time to draw his art.
Okay, I will say this. I know that they made the leis and the skirts out of paper. I'm so sorry. The skirts and the art
Don't
do
look like.
this is my only beef with the art in this book. It's just specifically that those look like palm fronds. Like
Yeah.
proper.
Like the ones that you could buy as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like with like real plastic
Mhm.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So I laughed a little because I was like, it would have been a little funny to see like ramshackle kids.
I know, but think
hula
of the
skirts.
extra work the artist would have to do to draw like newspaper headlines to say like
Oh no, 100%.
17 dead in Flanders Field.
And that's what it would say.
That's exactly what it
And
would
that's what
say.
it would say.
We just didn't need kids to look too hard into the newspaper.
Yeah, I
clippings.
understand. Okay. Yeah, when you put it like that, I understand.
Joseph Goebbels found.
Anyway, you were saying?
But so then, they're 9 years old, and Miss McIntyre's like, you guys go out. See you later. And so they leave the house, and they're trick-or-treating, and they're doing little tricks and treats for people. So they will, like, pretend to hula dance and ukulele when an adult demands they do a trick for them, which was a weird part of it. But
Yeah.
But since it's ration time, no one's really giving out candy. They're giving out, like, donuts and, like, caramel apples and little things, like, whatever they can. But Allison's family is giving out candy because they're rich and they could afford it.
Yeah.
And they run into Allison and her mom. And 'cause Allison's...
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
They, like, make fun of this girl. They're like, we can't go around with her because, embarrassingly, she brings her mom out.
Because they didn't invite her, so she had no one to trick-or-treat with. So her mom takes her trick-or-treating, and she sees them, and she says, you guys look so nice. Like, I love your costumes. And they're like, thanks. Ugh.
Oh, cooties. I feel like if they hang out around you, we might become lame, rich.
And nice people.
And nice people.
And so they, like, leave, probably giggling, and Allison probably hears them. And just feel really bad for Alice in these 2 books that we have.
Okay, yeah, but, like, I think this is where I started to turn on Molly a little bit. Because I wrote this. I'm pretty sure I had an adult chaperone or, like, a friend's, like, older brother or sister with me in some way, shape, or form. Maybe until, like, because I stopped trick-or-treating for a while when I sometime when I was in middle school, or maybe the start of middle school was, like, my last year because I felt like I was pushing it.
Yeah.
And then starting in high school, my friend's whole neighborhood did, like, crazy Halloween. So we would just take, like, her young, like, niece, like, around. And then we would get candy, too.
Yeah.
But I was like, it seems crazy. I know kids are, like, weird about different things, but I never thought it was lame. Like, even when I went trick-or-treating with friends, if my parents came, like, my parents just, like, hung back. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Halloween is one of the... Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure somebody has a different experience in this. I feel like Halloween is a night where most parents who let their kids go trick-or-treating, it's like the least overbearing they're ever going to be. It's like, yeah, go run up to that stranger's door and knock on it and ask them for candy.
And I kind of get it. Like, I know things are, have gotten over time. Parents have been more aware of the fact that children get taken.
Yes.
So maybe Allison's mom was just ahead of the curve and being like, yeah, I don't really want you.
I'm gonna go watch my kid.
But also, good for her mom, because no one fucking invited Allison out. And she seems so nice and rich and blonde. So they're being mean to her, and I think it's mean. But luckily, they get their comeuppance, because they're heading back down the street to Molly's house, being like, look at all the goodies we got. And then blammo, they're hosed. And the art is good.
The art is really good.
So and remember, kids, their costumes are made of paper. So the like green dye is like streaming down their legs. The flowers are getting pushed. Also, what type of hose is this? Because have you ever used a garden hose before? Like, you can hold your thumb over it and make the stream go kind of powerful, but it wouldn't hit all three of them at the same time.
No, it does. Okay, you can't see the hose in the art.
Yeah.
But it looks like when you open up a fire hydrant.
Yeah, which is what I'm hoping he did.
And for like, I think the sake of our personal enjoyment of this book, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And so who has the hose? None other than Ricky.
Ricky alert.
And he's like, that'll teach you. And they also were carrying all their candy in paper bags, which pillowcases, guys, pillowcases.
Okay, here's my one beef with Ricky's revenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ricky's revenge.
Like you said, it's ration times. But people were still giving out things that, like, you might or might not have. Like, in the next book, it's bread day on one day, and Mrs. Guilford makes, like, a yummy type of bread, okay? The only thing that pisses me off about Ricky fucking them over like this is that I'm like, babe, they were probably gonna bring those delicious treats and shit back to your house.
Yeah.
And by spraying them, like, sure, you got, like, your payback. Like, you got them. But, like, I feel like he could have waited till they, like, came home and then, like, dumped something on them or, like, I don't know, done something else. It was just devastating to me that they, like, lose all of these, like, treats and things.
I know, because it's, like I said, people gave them, like, donuts and stuff, so they're all soggy. It's not like anything's in, like,
you
wrapped
can't
paper.
salvage it.
Yeah.
So that was my one beef.
So that was it. So it's a bummer end to Halloween for the girls. And the next chapter, War.
That was a good title.
So this is actually an example of a sibling bullying. Oops again.
Who?
She read it before I did. And I remember she was reading it and I saw the picture of the skull. And I asked her, I said, why is there a skull on that page? And she says, I don't know why she said this, but she said one of her friends died.
Okay.
And so I remember when I read this, I thought one of them was like allergic to water or something.
She like melted like the Wicked Witch.
Yeah, and so the skeleton scared me so much on this page when I was like a kid.
When I read your note in the outline that the skeleton picture scared you, I had to stare at it for like 4 minutes before I kept reading. Because it's like a goofy... That was my one other thing. All of her art...
The little side vignette
arts.
arts.
Hate her art.
It's like goofy.
Why are they like all like cartoon? Because there's like turnips earlier in the book, and they're all like making goofy faces.
Yeah, the little vignette art is weird in this one, in these books.
It just doesn't match like her.
But I think it's supposed to be like 1940 style cartoons.
Sorry, I was just like really looking at it. I guess
Like
it
think
makes
of like
sense.
a
No, I was like thinking of like
Steamboat Willie,
Scooby-Doo.
you know, like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
The original Mickey Mouse and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's like that. I think that's at least that's what I think they're trying to do with it. They're trying to be like, oh, the tiny pictures will look like shows at the Nickelodeon.
I see. I'll give you that. I think it's just that sometimes it's like photorealistic colored pencil art, and then it's like, here's a personified vegetable.
It's all over the place.
Yeah. Just like Molly.
Just like Molly. But so once I moved past the picture of the skeleton as the brave little toaster that I've always been, the girls change out of their costumes. They're in their pajamas. Linda/Susan says we should tell on him. This was wrong. Molly says, no, we can't. We'll think of another way to get back at him. But then Mom comes home with Brad. And she says, so why are you guys not in your costumes? I want to take a picture of you. And they do have to kind of admit that Ricky did something. And Mom is sitting there like, excuse me, young man, sir. And Ricky is dressed as a pirate with a pencil mustache, getting caught.
I wrote Ricky getting interrogated at the table in his pirate outfit and painted on curly mustache is incredible.
Yeah, it was a good art. And Mom's outfit is fire in this, too.
Yeah, she's serving.
Mom has good style.
Yeah, I like her vibe.
Yeah, I do like Mom.
Yeah.
Even
we
though she
like
raised
Mom.
this child.
I like
The other ones seem fine.
I truly feel like Molly is the self-imposed black sheep of her family.
She's such a fucking loser.
I think she
and they
could
all
have
know
been
it.
so normal.
Yeah.
But she won't allow herself. She won't get out of her own way.
So Mom does kind of make, I honestly think, a little bit of a fair punishment where Ricky has to give the girls all his Halloween candy and he can only keep one thing, which I think is fair because it is Halloween for Ricky too. And he is a dumb kid, but he is a kid at the end of the day.
Again, he would have doubled down on his take home.
Yes, exactly.
If he had been
So
stupid.
he loses. But then they don't think that and then she is like, Dad would be so disappointed in you. Now everyone go to bed. And then they walk upstairs and Linda says, that was a pretty lame punishment. And Susan says, yeah, except for the part about like your dad being disappointed.
Yeah, except for like the I don't know.
The moral guilt trip.
Yeah.
And I was like, well noted,
It's the
Susan.
thing he's gonna think about until into his adulthood
Yeah.
and maybe up until he dies.
Exactly. I thought that was kind of funny. She's like, except for the part where your mom was like, your dad would be ashamed to call you his son. And Molly's like, you're right.
And then everyone just moves on.
Yeah, she's like, get in my bed. We're gonna take this into our own hands. Let's like destroy him in the only way we can destroy a tweenage boy.
Public
Him heart.
humiliation.
Him heart. And so they come up with the most bonkers plan, which we'll just go through the motions of it. Next day, Linda says, Ricky, I want to watch you play basketball. I need you to teach me. And he says, girls can't play basketball. Come on. So he takes Linda outside. Then Susan says, some guy named like Jimmy Coolman is outside in the car for you, Jill and Dolores. And they go, oh my God, Jimmy Coolman, he's a junior and we're just freshmen. We have to go. She's like, he wants to take you to the Nickelodeon. So they go, golly, and they get ready. And so they put on like their like makeup. And then Susan runs back to Molly now. And they run into Ricky's room. They take all his underwear out of his drawer. And then they go, come on, girls, go outside. So then Jill and Dolores go outside. And then Linda points Ricky towards the girls. And then they dump underwear on Jill and Dolores' head. And they go like, I see London, I see France, I see Ricky's underpants. And then Jill and Dolores get mad at Ricky.
Yeah. They're like, ew, stinky, gross boy with cooties.
I know.
Disgusting.
Dolores is kind of a cunt to him. And she's like, I believe these cute little underwear are yours, Ricky. I'm like, okay, who are you, 14-year-old? Get off. Like, get off.
I know. I was like, you know what?
You guys don't deserve Johnny Cool Guy.
Again, Molly like never. Well, she kind of gets in trouble, but Molly like almost never reaps the proper punishment socially.
Because this was
for
kind
her
of meaner
fucking
than what they
It
did.
is mean. It's way meaner.
It's really embarrassing.
Also, they already teased him. He got back at them, and then he got punished.
Yeah.
And then Molly was like, I don't think it was bad enough.
I know. Let's punish you, Molly.
Yeah.
And then Mom kind of does. But Mom first gives her second allegory about war.
That's right.
And she's like, this is exactly how wars start. And I'm like, is it?
I was like, hey, not like literally.
Oh, so Germany invaded Poland like this?
No
Over
way.
over a name-calling
Over
incident?
dumping some undies?
But Mom basically is like, I think Mom is most like, stop fighting. There's enough fighting going on. You guys don't need to be infighting. I'm fucking sick of it. And she gives everyone different tasks. So then the girls have to do all of Ricky's laundry, which I think is fair. And then Ricky has to like pick up all the remains from the costume crap that he did the night before, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
And Joe and Dolores have to do something, but I forget. There's something stupid.
Oh, they have to take care of Brad.
Oh, they take care of Brad.
Which, to be honest, doesn't seem like
Brad's 5. It's
that
going to be
much.
easy.
Jimmy McCool guy will be back some other time.
He was
anyway.
never even there.
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah, they weren't doing anything.
Yeah,
They thought
so
they were
it
doing
doesn't even
something and they
fucking matter.
weren't. So they just go sit inside and put like
they were cunts, but it's like I don't think that
they just put Mr. Ed on the TV and he's fine.
yeah, big
If they
time.
have a TV, I don't know. On the radio. They
I don't know
They
either.
should start playing more broadcasts for Brad.
They play Mr. Ed audio only version.
VOX. And then Molly comes up to Ricky and is like, maybe I went a little schizo on you. I'm sorry. And he's like, it's okay. That's what sisters are for. And then they kind of laugh. And the book ends.
Yeah, the end.
The end.
Bye.
Then we get peek into the past. World War II, baby. Pow pow. So we get the most childlike overview of World War II, where it's like the Nazis were bad guys. And they wanted to invade other countries. And they attacked Pearl Harbor, which was a big no-no for the U.S. And so we get this high-level overview of the Nazis, and then we get a picture of Hitler howling. And I'm so glad that doesn't happen anymore.
And it never has.
And I'll put a picture up of Hitler doing it in the book. Oh, wait. There's the picture. So then it tells you kind of what the war is, but doesn't go too into it, because who needs to learn about the Holocaust in a kid's book?
Kids, it's over. And
We're
nothing
gonna
like this will ever happen again.
And it's not even, and nothing like this even close is happening anywhere in the world.
We'll
right
never have
now.
any sort of geopolitical tensions.
No, we'll never have someone insulting another world leader in the Oval Office in an embarrassing way.
Or threaten them that they're playing with World War III.
Yeah, that hasn't happened.
That'll
recently,
never happen.
And it will never happen again. And anyway, they start telling us about the fun side of World War II, which is the home war effort. Hey.
Yeah, all the activities you got to do as an American.
Yeah, and honestly, good for those Americans.
Yeah.
They really pulled it together. They talk about like how the dads all went to war and all the men went to war, so women were getting more jobs in factories. They give us a little picture of Rosie the Riveter. We talk about kind of the rations, how people were volunteering with the Red Cross, people were giving blood, people were bringing in all their tin cans, people were building the victory gardens. And I was reading this, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but I couldn't help but think you could never get Americans to do that today. We're too selfish.
Yes, I agree.
Like, we would never be like, you know what, I can take a sacrifice for the greater good.
Well, quite frankly, I think this is a very, very silly... Oh, I'm going to pull a Mama McIntire and use like a metaphor for something bigger. It's the same way that people yearn for community and connection now, but can't inconvenience themselves when they feel like mildly under the weather or like slightly not up for stuff or tired and be like, well, I made this obligation, so like I should show up. And of course, like here and there, sure, like do it. But like you can't be like, why don't I have a community when the village is like, hey, can you guys come help? You're like, I don't have any time or energy. So it's the same thing now. I feel like Americans are so like me before thee because I need to take care of myself and like I'm first and foremost. And it's like, yeah, but like I do think that, and this isn't affected at all by our current political climate.
No, of course not.
But I do think that Americans have lost somewhat of a sense of what it would truly be like to have a war fought on our land. And I think we're too comfortable with the idea that it'll never happen in a way that we see it happen in other countries. But that's far away. And we're bordered by allies.
For now.
For now. So I agree with you, because even with COVID, right? Like people were so...
Toilet paper. People were hoarding it, not rationing.
The stockpiling and the way that people... I mean, honestly, the way that even people now, like, it sounds silly, but when there's water boils here in Texas or when things happen and like the stores, if they don't get ahead of it enough and then start like limiting people, the water supply will be gone. Like bottled water and things like that will be gone in a day if people don't set out like restrictions because people are selfish.
Yeah, I remember just an instance that made me think of this was I used to work at a very bougie hotel here in Austin, and I worked there during the pandemic, and we are in Texas, so we kind of reopened very quickly. So honestly, it was kind of a luxury if you were someone living in Texas that by June of the pandemic, honestly by May, I think, you could eat out at a restaurant. You had restrictions to it, but you could eat out. And of course, there's all this stuff going on, and if you remember, there's that whole thing with the barge blocking the Suez Canal. And I worked at a Mediterranean restaurant, and we got a lot of our wine imports, I guess, through that channel. And so we were low on a bunch of wines because of the pandemic and because of the Suez Canal thing. And so I remember this woman came into the restaurant, and she wanted to order a bottle of wine from Turkey, and we didn't have it. And I told her we didn't have it. And she got, like, visibly annoyed with me. And then she wanted to order a second bottle, and we also didn't have that one. And I said, I'm really sorry, we don't have those two wines. And she started screaming at me as if it was my fault. And I just remember thinking, as I'm sitting there wearing a mask in this restaurant, like, and this is peak COVID time, we're sanitizing everything in an insane way. It feels scary to be working in a restaurant. And I'm watching this woman just yell at me over being inconvenienced by not being able to try a white wine that she wants to buy for $75. And it just made me think, like, there are so many bigger problems to have, and this is what you're choosing to fight someone about. And it just feels kind of like, you kind of said it. I say it in a little meaner way, where I feel like a lot of Americans have an attitude now that's like, I got mine, so fuck you.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Student loans.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, there's a very weird trend, I feel like, in American society now that I feel like people tell us we always had, but I think they're misrepresenting it. America is a very individualistic society.
Correct.
And I think nowadays people have taken that to mean that, like, I'm only looking out for myself. What I think that used to mean was we were looking out for America.
Yeah.
And America, to be a good country, needs everyone to be doing well. So I think the individualism came more from the fact that we didn't really we have Canada and Mexico, but we're not like Europe where we can rely on a giant network of other countries to help us out. So we had to be individualistic and support ourselves in that way. And I could be wrong with this. But it just feels like, from reading things from the past, with Americans pulling together to do things like a war effort and helping out and things like the New Deal, that we weren't always this self-centered in the idea that if something inconveniences me personally in even the smallest way, even if it would mean that everyone else in the room gets a better deal, I don't want that.
Correct.
You know, it's like if you told one person, hey, you can leave 5 minutes early to this meeting, but if you leave 5 minutes early, then everyone else has to stay 25 minutes late, but you can just stay the extra 5 minutes and everyone will leave on time. It feels like a lot of Americans now would be like, well, I'm going to leave early.
Yeah, I want to leave early.
Yeah.
I deserve to leave
I don't
early.
have to stay late.
I worked hard today.
Yeah. So it was just kind of interesting hearing about, and the whole book, and of course some it's propaganda, so I'm not saying that everyone was marching down the street throwing their scrap metal into a container. Like, I'm sure people were annoyed and frustrated, because I've even heard, like, during the Spanish flu they had similar kind of restrictions and people bucked up against that too. But I think there's less. I think you're kind of used to be seen as like a loser when you didn't support these things, and when you were seen as a loser and selfish, and now you're just seen as like, you're doing your own thing, and I think that's wrong.
It's the way that people are like, I don't have any opinions of politics, or I don't follow these things, where it's like,
I just don't pay attention to that.
I think this
Cool.
There was also like a globalist. Anyway, we could have like a whole other podcast with this, but yes, I agree with you at the core that I think we have moved away from. Also, like, yes, we've moved more towards individual pride and individual America, whereas it used to be, well, maybe, again, like you said, maybe not, but it used to be more, we were part of a global network.
I mean, we know things, like, not to get too political, but, like, we know things are getting more divided. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of, in a weird way, I was a little sad to see, like, oh, all these people put in, like, if we were actually in a war in any capacity now, and you told one side of the aisle that they had to sell their trucks, and trucks just the first thing I thought of. It's not supposed to be targeted, I swear to God. But, or they couldn't get enough, they had to ration gas, which I feel like we've done before. People flip a shit. And it's kind of like, what do you expect? It's a world. We don't have, we have finite resources, you know? So it just kind of, I think it's interesting to see, in the past, we used to be slightly better. And honestly, it may have changed, and that's fine. But it's just kind of interesting to see that, like, there used to be a time when we were a proper country.
A proper country.
And this isn't me saying that, like, I'm like a warmonger or anything like that. I'm just saying it seems like there used to be a more group mentality towards dealing with a hard situation. Yeah. It felt more like, all right, we'll get through this if we all work together. And now it felt like the last time we had a hard situation, which was the pandemic, it felt a little bit like there was kind of an every man for himself attitude among a lot of the population.
And it only got worse when we came out of it.
But that's also because the pandemic was fake. So,
well, that's true.
Yeah.
Tune in for our conspiracy theory podcast next. We're making our tinfoil hats as our craft activity.
Yeah, and it is a total joke, so don't.
So Don't think too hard about it.
Anyway, so we got another. God, who knew?
Here she is.
The American. You just tune in for the funny jokes, and then hopefully you can tune out if you don't agree with us politically. But we lose a few subscribers every time we go on these rants, so I think we're weeding them out.
You know, I think it's good to be challenged, like Molly was challenged by her brother.
Well, that's so true. And then in a more
For sure. No, yeah, what?
in a more heartfelt note, I hope if you enjoy this podcast, you can allow the liberations of us talking about how the politics of the past, because this is American history, so it does bring up things, you know. And I do especially feel like with the World War II stuff, because we're on the brink of World War III, we may bring up some stuff. But I hope you can listen, and even if you don't agree with us, you can understand where we're coming from with this.
Wait, can I read you this Samantha Parkington quote?
Yes.
And I believe Americans want to be good. I believe we want to be kind. And if we are kind, I believe we will take care of the children. Then we can truly be proud of our factories and our progress.
Especially our
The
factory.
factories isn't super relevant. But I think it hits on what you're saying, though, right? Which is, yeah, hopefully we can be allowed some of it, because I don't think there's nothing wrong with looking critically or appreciatively at the past and the lessons and things that we've taken away from it.
And you kind of have to compare. We can't pretend that we live in a vacuum when we want to talk about, because the point of this podcast is to talk about children's books from an adult perspective. An adult perspective contains nuance.
Indeed so.
So, after that, second big rant after Suffragette.
Let's go.
But my closing thoughts on Molly is it felt very different than the girls so far. It feels more like a kid's book. Like, not that I felt like we were reading adult literature, but it just felt like I was reading a kid's book kind of for this one.
I said, I feel like Molly is mean. She's seen as mean and she's a brat because she is mean in her thinking and the way that she thinks. She's very individualistic. See rant before. Overall, I think it was fun to have a Halloween peak.
Yeah. I thought you'd like that.
Yeah. I don't think it's been super relevant to, well, first of all, I feel like Grandmary would have never let
Sam.
paganism into her home.
No, I wonder when Halloween started being
I was just going to
celebrated.
say that was my next sort of question, when a commercial type of Halloween really began. But Kirsten's mom would have probably believed that was the occult. So it was fun. I enjoyed her book for what it was, and mostly that I enjoyed that it wasn't very serious in the end.
1 second, looking up Halloween. Because it says it started 2,000 years ago, and I'm like, that's not the exact question
Well,
I'm
yeah,
asking.
not like.
And then now it says, I googled it, when did Halloween start as it is today? And the AI overview says, usually people start trick-or-treating around 5:30.
Oh, okay, great.
So, when did trick-or-treating start? It's better.
This says costumes started being worn in 1585 in Scotland.
Sounds like 1920s was the first use of the phrase trick-or-treat. So I think it's like, I bet Halloween is still pretty new.
Oh, well, definitely in the commercial sense. It does feel like it's a very modern commercialized holiday.
Yeah. So it was fun to have something that we kind of recognized. I agreed. I think Molly is kind of sassy. I don't necessarily like her, and that continues. But she is coming in hot with a clear, complicated personality.
That's true. I feel like I hope she's like an onion and that she has more layers for us to peel back.
Yeah, and kind of like with Samantha and not with Kirsten, I do feel like Molly's side characters are more fleshed out. So it's nice to have tertiary and secondary characters who feel like they are existing in the world, you know, rather than just like a ghost person who appears in a scene to talk to Kirsten then disappears.
Because it feels, I was going to say, because Molly's dad being gone feels like an actual weight in her life because she acknowledges it.
When Papa's at logging camp, who knew?
Kirsten just kind of like, Papa's away.
But she was probably happy because Papa was mean.
Well, she didn't like Papa for sure.
Who did? And yeah, just like kind of as I said at the top, it's a little bit jarring from the other two books just because it feels a little bit more like modern, I guess, than what we've been reading. So it just felt like from the the way we were doing it just felt like we were kind of jolted almost into modern day in kind of a shocking way.
Yeah, she doesn't feel so different from you or I.
Yeah, she's just like us. She's just like
us.
All right, well, anything else you want to say about Meet Molly?
My literal only thought was, I have no real read on her yet. She definitely has a personality. I said, I do continue to be a bit curious as to why Kirsten was or is, including by the American Girl brain, mostly defined as a mistake maker and impulsive.
Because they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, for sure.
She had no personality.
So that's why I just think it's insane that they were like, okay, we've got the World War doll, we've got the suffragette doll, and then we've got Pioneer Girl. So, wow, we've unlocked all three.
New doll unlocked. So guys, if you like this, then share it with your friend who you did a group Halloween costume with.
Share this with your friend who you'd bully.
Share this with your rascal older brother.
Share this with Brad.
Share this with the Brad in your life. Share this with your mom who always makes war allegories. Wargories.
Print out a transcript of this and mail it to your dad overseas.
And don't forget, if you're in Austin this weekend, we are doing our American Girl bar crawl. It is going to be very chill. We are just going to be bopping around different bars. If you want to join us, do. If you don't, like I said, I'll be wearing a Josefina t-shirt because it's all I have.
We'll see you next time.
And you can wear whatever you want. But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe. It really helps us with the algorithm. And we love you so much. We don't know you, but we love you.
But in our hearts, we hold you close.
So goodbye.
Goodbye.
I'm ready to go.